Welcome everyone to the Ashen Forge. I am Phantom X, joined as always by Diggs and legendary Neurotoxin. How are y'all doing on this wonderful Friday night?
Doing
Great.
good.
Awesome. We are talking about the state of the game, titled The Start of the Game, because this is when things are really starting to pick up. Well, kind of, not really. We'll get into all that. But yeah, today, yesterday actually, it was correct that the actual post was made. Today there was a live stream. In between that was a Discord session, which I absolutely hate, and I'll get into later. Anyways, Diggs, you've sort of become our big Ashes person at this point, so why don't you take it away? The state of the game. What state are we in?
Well, I think we are where we kind of expected to be based on how little of the BR we've had available to play since December. So the creative director's letter came out last night. I think the big news was that the delay of Alpha 1 is going to be pushed from Q2, quarter 2, second quarter to third quarter. And that kind of makes sense because it feels like the BR has been down for about 3 months. And, you know, we barely played. We played 2 weeks since December 18th, basically, maybe like 12 days, something like that. 12 to 14 days we've played. And so I think that was the big news from the letter. I'm trying to think of anything else. You guys read the letter. Was there anything else surprising to you in the letter?
The lack of information. Go ahead.
Well, as I had said in our general chat, and, you know, I don't mean this necessarily to be like, you know, rude or salty, but it's that it gives me the feeling that it's more a bunch of opinions of how the game's going to go and progress and what's going to happen, rather than like really a concrete timeline or, you know, a real concrete list of like what's going to happen, you know, what comes for what, etc. And you know, really laying it out in a more technical manner. So it kind of feels like this is my opinion on, you know, what the release schedule is going to look like and how things are going to go and what we're going to be working on. And, you know, that's fine. I know there's a lot of uncertainty to this, and I know there's definitely a bit of an odd sort of thing when the person that's calling the shots is also the one paying the paychecks, is, you know, also the one with the vision. That it's not necessarily that it's a bad thing. It's just an odd situation sometimes, and sometimes it means the reality versus expectation sometimes gets skewed. And, you know, we've come to expect that with MMOs and now Meows, as we've seen them come around too. But it's one of those things where, as I read it in its entirety, I was just getting the feeling like, you're answering a lot of the things while also like leaving a lot that I would maybe want to, you know, get a little bit more detail on. And to be fair, I didn't really take specific notes on what some of those details were, because I was hoping the video would cover them. And I feel like they did actually get into a little bit more detail in the video.
Yeah, so stream. One of the things that got, we got Stephen to mention it specifically in the live stream, was that it is, he had kept saying before that the game would release before 2020, and he's now saying that it's going to move into 2020. But we could kind of get that feel again based on where the testing is, and the BR's been down for January and February, and looks like it's going to be half of March because we haven't heard a week in advance that it's going to start on the weekend of the 15th. So most likely it won't be up for next weekend either. So you can kind of guess from that, and make a pretty, safe bet that it wasn't going to be before 2020. I'm trying to think of what else he mentioned. So yeah, I mean, just a bunch of stuff that we kind of knew was going to be the case. Castle Siege is going to have to follow behind the BR testing, and it's going to have to follow behind Horde. I guess that's one thing that I liked was confirmed in the letter, was that they had stopped working on some of the Siege development and Horde development while they focused on getting the BR back up and running, especially on the network side.
That makes sense.
So I was thinking that would be the case, but we got confirmation that was the case which doesn't mean in the letter, which doesn't mean that they've completely stopped development on art or anything else that, that people working on those aspects of the game, don't necessarily have to be working on the BR. So, but the testing is the crucial part. They still want to test everything in a sequential manner. And that data that they're going to get from the preliminary testing is going to help them prepare for the next piece of testing in the sequence. So we should not be surprised that the BR being delayed is going to cause everything else to be delayed. New hires, okay. They did change Zola. They're integrating Stripe and PayPal into place.
Something about European people getting screwed?
Yeah, it seems like my understanding of that is that there were extra fees for the European countries, and exorbitant. So I did hear lots of complaints about that, especially like when they're even trying to buy cosmetics and things like that. It's they want a $10 or $20 cosmetic, and it's going to be an extra $7 to $10 on top of that. It's just crazy. So one of the new things, they're going to be trying to hold the live streams regularly, scheduled for the last Friday of every month on Twitch, and then put up the following Saturday on YouTube. And I think that's kind of a significant thing, is that they're hoping that this is going to be Nodes month. March will be Nodes month, and next week we'll start getting regular rollouts of content. Hopefully they can keep up with that. Which I have a question about for you guys. Content. If you guys were looking for content, what kind of content would you guys like them to share with us week by week? Any? Do you care?
I'm personally the sort of person that would like at least concept art or some animation for some ability that some animators working, or something like that. Just give me tidbits here and there throughout the week, and the end of the month stream can basically be kind of talking a little bit more in depth about the different things, maybe having one of the artists or one of the designers or somebody on to kind of talk about the things a little bit. There's ways to do it that you can keep it exciting and string out the information without really saying a lot, but doing enough to at least keep people excited and engaged. And of course, the other advantage is that you keep it as a Q&A platform. Even if you're answering 90% questions that you've already answered on the stream and the other 10% you've answered elsewhere, some people maybe only watch the stream, so it's good to potentially go over those things again, even if it's come up in a previous stream or it's come up on Discord, or I think I said forums, but I think that's one of those sticking points that they're still working on, right? And they talked about that on the stream.
Yeah. And, people are concerned that the forums have been down since December 18th. But like I say, I was concerned the first time I went into the very first forums that they had and was like, ooh, this is the They can't even get
WordPress, wasn't it?
forums. I think so. I was like, if
Yeah,
they
that's
can't
what
even
they
get
said.
it.
I think that's what they said on the stream, is that it started as WordPress and then they moved to something else and then that got slammed, so they had to refactor that.
Yeah. Worst forums I've seen in the last 20 years. And you can't get that right. It does give you questions about the rest of development. I mean, I don't know. But
Gosh, yeah, even like vBulletin from 2015, not 2015, from like 15 years ago, rather, like even that worked,
Yeah. Yep. Phantom X, is there something that you would like to see?
Not really. Nodes.
Nodes.
Well,
I'd rather start testing.
Okay, so for testing, I had actually kind of thought about that earlier, is for people that want to help contribute but don't want to actually play the Battle Royale and maybe want to get a little bit of extra perk or benefit, do Auto-Apocalypse, where basically you have it running in the background. You can full screen it if you want. You don't get to control it when you have Auto-Apocalypse engaged. It's just constantly queuing you for matches and just doing the most basic scripted things, so that you're an easy target, but you're constantly, engaging all the abilities and interfacing with the environment and stuff. I think that would be much better. Right? What was that?
Yeah, so which is what they say they primarily are using it for, right?
Yeah, exactly. So if we were just given the Auto-Apocalypse feature, it's like, hey, I don't want to play this, but I'll take some extra points that I can use to buy some of these aesthetics. Then let it run in the background while you're not using your computer. They get to use your bandwidth. They get to do the extra load testing. It would likely increase the number of users by a significant amount without requiring a lot of extra complaint and arm tugging, because it's like, hey, you want the benefits, but you don't want to do the thing. You're waiting for Castle Siege. We get that. Here, just run this. It's
from what I hear, people don't care. It's a fucking BR. That's all that matters. So they're not.
I don't know why everyone got so upset about that. So what?
Because they want to test the MMO, and it's not an MMO, and MMO players hate fucking BRs.
Well, I mean, I have 2 games I used to play that got ruined by going BR. So
I will say there was an interesting response.
Yeah,
and I think I didn't watch the video, so I think it was maybe Discord that I read the transcript. That there was a question, because we've known for a while they trademarked the idea of AshNet, which I guess is the sort of BattleNet version for Intrepid to launch multiple games or game modes, I assume. So obviously I always assumed they're going to develop these different modes of PvP and keep them for forever. But someone asked that question, and it was actually not a kind of answer. It was, we don't know. We'll see.
If they're going to continue with the BR?
Yeah, if this is just once they get to the MMO, MMO launches, will they continue to also run a BR or these other things?
Yeah.
And that's sort of the first time that there's been not a clear yes. It was sort of, we'll see if it's helpful.
Yeah. My guess is the short answer from their perspective is if we get buy-in and it becomes something that's taken up as a serious esport, then we'll continue maintaining it. But if we don't go that effort, if nobody really, tries taking it up as a tournament-worthy esport, there's no reason to maintain it.
I don't think it will.
We might do it just so people can earn the skins and, play around on the side if they just want to fight. But
he also gave us a figure, right? I think, again, in Discord, somebody asked how many people tested or whatever whenever they had their open testing. And it was something like 86,000, I think he said, which sounds like a lot, but when you have, it's not fair to compare it to Apex or things like that, but when you have 50 million and 86,000 for a genre that BR, which is fairly hot right now, so you tend to think that probably something new and flashy comes out, people will at least log on and try it. They might not stay, but it was like I forget the name. There was another game the Ninja started kind of stream, and I cannot remember the name of it. Went from Fortnite briefly to another BR type game and kind of went back to Fortnite. I cannot remember the name of it, but it was one of these, again, sort of this new thing. People started to stream it, and then it just sort of died out right away.
Spellbreak?
No, it was, I don't remember it. Anyways.
Not Z1BR.
No, this would have been a while back. I mean, this was probably right as Fortnite was starting to hit peak.
PUBG?
No, it was. But anyways, my point is, it just seems like a low number. I'm surprised. I'm surprised he gave a number, to be honest. But then to say
give a high number.
But to say 86,000 and then and we got 200 at one time. It's like, wait a minute.
Well, no,
I know they're testing the server stability and all that. But,
yeah, that wasn't worded very well. What they should have said is, 86,000 people. We had multiple servers running, each filled with the server capacity of 200 at a time. That would have sounded a little more impressive. But you're right, going from 86,000 to 200 doesn't
just.
Yeah, you're right. The delivery of the message didn't quite work.
You tested more. That's, I mean, did it take a while to match? Like when I was not in the last open session, but when I did test it, it took forever just to match enough for whatever that was set at, 100.
I want to say 10 to 15 minutes.
Which again seems surprising for having 86,000. I don't know.
Yeah,
something seemed off. I don't know what, but
that answer that he gave is a little bit misleading because what he said was 86,000 people tested it. That could be, 40,000 playing one match and then saying "fuck this." I mean,
yeah, pretty much.
Well, that's my point too. But,
yeah.
I don't know,
but.
I didn't ever answer your first question. So the actual letter, blog post, whatever, to me seemed very lacking of information. Like I was, when I hear state of the game, I'm okay. Where are nodes? Where are all these other things that set you apart that we've been promised? And it seemed more like, hey, we're behind. We're still making a game. Here's the things we're doing, which is basically making a game. I mean, there wasn't anything. We're bug testing and we're iterating. Okay, that's what you do.
That's right.
So what is But I guess some of that was clarified. Again, this is why I hate Discord. The posts seem very flat. A lot of it from that Discord transcript sort of kind of made the blog post made more sense after I read his conversation. But I just hate that they do that. That instead of that information being there in this, that it's this follow-up Discord session that he happens to fit in for maybe an hour before he has to take another meeting, that drives me nuts. I mean, I'm glad that there's someone there to transcribe it and keep it, but it's that medium where if there's no one to do that, what if he pops in at 4 a.m, starts answering some questions, there's no one there to screenshot it or whatever, and then it's just lost, it's just gone, right? So that drives me crazy. And they have a blog, right? It's not because they don't have forums. He can answer it in the blog at least, because it made more sense later. It seemed after I heard his responses of, well, we're behind. I'm no longer going to do, which I actually agree. I'm happy he's taking this path of, we're going to hide a little bit more. We'll show you some things every month or so, but we're going to actually be a little bit more careful about what we say, which is what I think all of us have been saying all along. So I'm happy. I applaud him for doing that. But that makes the blog post make more sense. Okay, there wasn't a lot of information there because you didn't want to give a lot of information. Makes sense. Too bad I had to read a Discord chat to figure that out. Because if I didn't know that Discord was there, I'm sitting here thinking, what are you guys doing? There's nothing here. How far behind are you?
Yeah.
So, anyways. Yeah. So my complaint there is that I was in the middle of watching Dungeon Crawler Network with the Jellos and Crojack. And somebody came in and said, "Hey, I'm trying to figure out if I should listen to you guys or listen to Steven in Discord chat." And then I'm like, what? I guess I got to stop.
So was he in voice chat or was he typing?
Yeah, he was in voice chat.
Oh, no, that's even worse, man.
Yeah, that's
even worse.
Yeah. Normally he comes on to just type with us in chat, maybe once a week or something. But yeah, I had to drop watching the podcast I was in the middle of watching live and go over to Steven. And I mean, most of it was bitching anyway. It's a fucking BR. You're not listening to us. You're not giving us what we want to play. Damn it. But we got some nice tidbits. We got clarification, like you're interested in nodes. So he did say that the plan for this month, one of the things that we'll be getting is a in editor peek of nodes in action. So we'll have one of the devs running node features through the editor, so we can watch that happening and explaining how things are working, which is still different from nodes 3, but we'll be getting some more drops about nodes throughout March, which could be kind of cool. But are you, Phantom X, are you, so you're interested in hearing about nodes?
That's basically it.
But you just want to be able to drop into Alpha 1? Basically, you're not really interested in sieges?
No, not at all.
Or Horde. And what is it in Alpha 1 that you want to play around with besides nodes? Is it just that you want to focus on trying to get cities and villages to grow? Or
I guess that's me assuming there's going to be more than PvP on Alpha 1.
Yeah,
not that we're just put in the world with nothing else much to do.
Yeah.
I don't really care about PvP or combat, so give me something else.
Right.
Test around. So let me run around the world, try to break things, whatever.
PvE is fine.
Yeah.
And if we can maybe sneak some crafting in there, even better.
Well, that too, but I'll take.
Okay.
I know that will come much later. I just nodes are nothing really. I mean that from the get go has been the reason I backed the game, right? It's the whole idea of world change. So.
Okay.
Prove me that you're doing it. Prove it or at least show me that you're doing it. I could. Yeah. Otherwise, it's just basically another. I mean, it's just another run of the mill
MMORPG, right?
with a different lore. That's basically
right.
It.
And so, Neuro, you would not mind seeing animations of class abilities, like classes. Like we have some class kits coming in for Siege, right? And you'd like. I think that's partially what you said is you'd like to see some animations of the combat.
Anything that could be combat animations, casting animations, crafting animations, mobility animations. Show me how the characters walk and run uphill, downhill, at a diagonal, backwards. Let me see some of that. That sort of stuff. I'll say Landmark did have a really good thing with the epic movement system. It isn't probably the sort of thing for most meows, but for Landmark being the sort of sandboxy game that it was, they put a lot of detail in that movement system. It showed. It was beautiful. It was probably one of the most complete systems of the game by far. I really appreciated their movement system. So
since what we see in APOC is a preliminary of what we see in the MMORPG, meaning if the animations that we would see there will transfer over to what's going to be in the MMORPG. I'm kind of hoping that in April, so if Nodes is the focus for March, I would love to start seeing some of those class kits for APOC Siege start showing up in April, throughout April. I think a lot of people I'm hearing are that they don't want to see anything about APOC. They want to see everything with the MMORPG. But again, stepping stones.
But that's like the EverQuest Next group not caring about Landmark, right? It's a part of the process. I mean, right?
Yeah, but what I like differently is so far.
I guess it's not real comparable because Landmark was much more involved in what they were doing than just a BR. But it's the same idea.
Yeah. Well, what I like is that the Ashes devs are not putting their full focus on making sure that the BR and Apocalypse is super polished. They're not keeping it up 24/7 and letting us play through the bugs. It's buggy, but they're gonna focus on all their energy on making sure it stays up 24/7. because then they would not have any time or energy left to work on the MMORPG. So I'm glad that it's down. I'm glad that they chose not to go to PAX East. Yeah. So cool. So okay. So
speaking of Landmark and Next, too, one thing that I I'm happy to see how they're going to present the information is that they're using the Unreal Editor. Or how they were going to actually use the engine to show us what they're doing, right? Because we know for a fact, can't really say who, but I think we've talked about it before. But we've been told that essentially everything we saw from Next was not actual like gameplay. It was just demo footage, whatever you want to call it, put together. It was not actually someone playing the game, which you wouldn't know unless the person working on the game told you that. So it gives the idea that they're much further along than what they really are. Like the story bricks and the crown, and oh wait, they never actually got story bricks to code. You wouldn't know that from looking at that video. But the idea here, well, let us actually show you what we're doing through the tools itself. I think is a pretty neat idea. Good.
Yeah, so hopefully in March we'll start seeing some of that stuff, and we'll get a better idea of what they're working on. So I'm trying to think of what else we learned. One of the things I asked in the video chat was about how much of the map, of the MMORPG map, are we going to see in Alpha 1, Alpha 2, and the betas? Because the Alpha 0 was supposed to take place after the fall, and I think that was a better representation of the MMORPG map than the BR map is. But I was getting the feeling that Steven doesn't really want us to play around so much on the MMORPG map so that, we don't get jaded with that world before we actually get to play at launch. So I think that's one of the reasons why we have APOC, which is a setting that's 1,000 years in the future, 1,000 years before Vera, where we're going to be playing in the MMORPG. And it's a different map than the MMORPG map. And he said that the plan is to have 25% of the map, MMORPG map, available for us in the alpha, and move up, so that we have 100% by the time we're in beta. And that's just an interesting thing to me on that end, because that does mean we're very likely to have seen the entire map before Head Start. So we will have an idea of where we'd like to be in Head Start as we're exploring. So the nodes won't be active during Head Start, but guilds will know in advance where they'd like to go. And I think that's, you have to think about how much of an advantage that is over people not able to start with Head Start.
What if they don't? What if they actually have a different world that they do through testing than they do at launch? I don't know how flexible they are. Like, how the other game we're covering is, literally making a different world for each server. So they are intending to be flexible like that. But I could see them, doing it in such a way, or doing a variation of it, that the version that we see through alpha and beta has different pacing for like scripts and triggers and events, and a lot of the major encounters won't actually be available even if the world itself is accessible.
Well, I mean, I think if we have access to 100% of the map, that means that the map is going to be the same. But
it could be a featureless sort of thing. Like there's only mining nodes in this region, and there's only some trees in that region, or something like that. So to be able to make it that you don't know where all of the mining nodes are supposed to be across the world when the game goes live. You only know okay, well, I can go here and, go through the mining and smelting and crafting part of the sequence.
Yeah, it'll only be a general idea in any case because the nodes aren't specifically set.
That's true.
So we would just be trying to get to the general area, and hopefully once it turns on, we'll have we'll be somewhere in the vicinity of. But what I'm saying is, like, what region we want to be in and what's likely to be around there. We'll have, more of an idea and some ability to get there that people coming in after Head Start won't have. But
so why won't they let nodes be active on Head Start?
They don't want it to be too huge of an advantage, pay to win, and all this stuff. So we get to go in and explore and do some PvE stuff. I guess PvP stuff too, but we won't be building up the cities, and those cities won't be generating, content until after Head Start.
I guess Head Start's more just so you can shore up your resources and be a little tougher when the doors finally open.
Yeah. And some people are concerned about that. That's why I asked the question, just so we know that, because I always think the same thing. Maybe we would only have 25% of the map at beta and then the full map at launch. And that would be a different situation. But there might be something to that concern. I don't know. I have to think about that. What else? I'm trying to think of the other cool things that we learned from the chat. I did get some confirmation on why we didn't get Battlegrounds. I had been telling people that we didn't get Battlegrounds because the BR was easier for them to create and get it into our hands at the time that they said they would, closer to the time they said they would, and if they were going to do Battlegrounds, that they would have had to wait longer. And Stephen did confirm that there were other things, like for Battlegrounds, they would have classes, they would have objectives that we would have to capture and things like that. So it would have taken longer for them to code. Anything else in the voice transcript that you guys saw that was of interest?
Sounded very Star Citizen-y as far as the question. Actually, Star Citizen was I think commented on specifically. I don't know. I like some of his answers. Some of the others, it was, about the cash shop and how they're promising all these things. There's sort of a complaint about that. It was interesting. There were a couple of questions about, you've promised so many different things, which I think is what SOG would always talk about. You say yes to everything.
Mm-hmm.
If you're behind with doing this, how are you going to be able to keep all these features? And I think his response was yes.
But how many things are ever actually a promise versus just a confirmation?
Or proposed.
Well,
yeah.
He likes to use words, but
yeah, and Steven does hype. And that's the thing. I don't understand why people bought into the hype, but I guess we've had experience with Landmark and Revival, so it's.
I get tired of his overuse of adjectives.
Ah, right.
Yeah.
Glorious testers. I think the other thing that was interesting from the voice chat was someone asked, what happens if, while trying for this hybrid combat, combat, and tab target, what happens if it's not fun? And he did say in that event, if push came to shove, they would just go with tab target, but he thinks that won't be the case.
Because they'll have such a good game in other areas, people won't complain about tab targeting. That was the rest of the answer.
And right, is it Pantheon that you're liking that has the tab target that
modern
I don't
day
like?
EverQuest. So.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that to me just seems like super slow.
It is. Yeah, it's slower combat.
Yeah.
If you have no attention span. So.
I prefer action.
Actually, you bring up Pantheon. I am looking forward to the game. So this is not a knock on the game, but also this idea of constant content releases or whatever discussions. You know, they very regularly on Twitter will ask community questions or things like, you know, oh, what if you came across a player that needed help and you had to log out in 10 minutes? What would you do? Stuff like that, which initially, and I get it, it's again an attempt to engage the community. But you could see, like, initially there would always be a lot of responses, and that just continues to die out, kind of. It's just sort of the same 10, 15 people now. It's not a lot of, and that I guess what I'm getting at is just why I don't necessarily care about having new stuff coming out every week, because I get that the idea is to maintain some sort of people keeping an eye on you. But if you're if you're doing that for 2 years, it just starts to get really old. And despite what Steven doesn't promise or does promise, I mean, we're still a long ways away from just jumping in and playing a game. So
yeah,
I don't know. I feel like a lot of people shoot themselves in the foot because they start way too early, and then people just kind of get tired of it.
Well, that was what happened with Omid, as we remember that, you know, he eventually explained, yeah, you know, I built up the hype train, I ran the hype train, and then when I ran out of things I could do the hype train with, I left. Most honest answer, you know. I did everything I could.
It's like I feel like they want to stay, you know, forefront every day, the whole developmental cycle and process, and it's just not possible. People's attention spans are too small. There's so many other things out there. It's just not possible. And you in turn make it worse, because what happens is your real core fan base gets tired of it. You know, show us something more substantial. We want to play your game.
It's this really sort of difficult thing where we can always, you know, point fingers at why things are going the way they're going, and there's one that I'll always kind of go back to, that you know, if the meows that are currently in progress were able to get the same kind of funding that big AAA MMOs and multiplayer shooters and stuff like that were able to get, if they were able to get that much buy-in from investors, they'd be out already. They'd be good. You know, part of the reason why they're taking so long is because they've got to do what they can with the budget they've got, plus whatever fundraising they're able to do, and whatever amount they're able to secure from, you know, smaller investors here and there that chip in. It's a really difficult sort of thing. Like, I really kind of wish I could see the you know, a 2-line graph of their you know, the total resources and you know, or how much they've accumulated up to a point, and then how much of it they've, you know, had to spend on just development, not keeping the office open or events or anything else, like just on development. Yeah, I'm sure they've been probably keeping it fairly tidy, but it's something where they could have had a lot more room with, of course, a lot more resources.
Yes, and I guess that's, you know, I mean, I kind of blah, blah, blah over it, but they are also still expanding. I forget where they're because Blizzard laid off some people, I guess. So I think they're letting Blizzard know, hey, send in your resumes. And they are supposed to be moving towards a new studio. So that is kind of what they mentioned in the live stream, which is kind of funny that because people had been asking, aren't you supposed to move by the end of February?
Yeah.
And one of the stories was they were planning to move into a building on the middle floor, and then they were like, we need you to buy the whole building. Don't need the whole building.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those were the big things for the live stream. I think one of the things, I mean, for the voice chat, one of the things I was going to say about getting used to getting tired of, you know, the hype was a lot of people were saying they'd really rather be playing in the A0 environment instead of the BR environment. And BR environment is too bright and glowy and stuff. They much preferred A0. But I think even if I had played A0, I would be happy to know that we had changed to a new environment. I'm an explorer, so I love going around and exploring the BR map. But that being said, I would not want to be so stuck in the BR map for, I don't know, 6 to 8 months. And then that also be the same map as A1. So I'm kind of glad that we have a different map for APOC than we do for A1, the MMORPG. And that we're going to start with 25% and then it's going to expand as we go so that we don't get tired of playing in the same area over and over and over and over again. So that's the other thing I think is one of the things that people were complaining about in voice chat the last several days, ramping up to hearing about the letter, is that the Phoenix Initiative folk got to see the letter a day or two before everybody else. And they were concerned that they were going to be able to critique it and give feedback. And Stephen would make changes based on their feedback and make changes to however they're working their development based on the feedback from the Phoenix Initiative, and that it needs to have, those are probably going to be casuals who pay tons of money for everything, so they won't really have a good sense of what's good for the game. But I think these same people were, a lot of them in guilds and a lot of them PvP focused and hardcore, that's just as much of a problem if Stephen caters just to them. I think we have to realize that there is a wide group. Those people seem to think that everybody hates having a BR because MMO players don't want to play a fucking BR, but I don't like BR. I didn't mind playing the BR. It's okay.
I don't want to play a large-scale battle where everything absolutely sucks because there's 500 people and it can't support 500 people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if the trade-off is they have to do the battle royale to do the load testing, I'm fine with that. Just let me automate it, please.
Well, man, my thing is wait for Siege if you want to wait for Siege.
That too.
Nobody's forcing you to do the BR, and if you want to wait until A1, wait until A1. I mean, I think that's okay.
And I would imagine Siege is going to be a more accurate representation anyway. It's concentrated battles on fronts rather than, people just picking each other off here and there.
Yeah. So what else was moving into the live stream itself? We got a little bit more detail on, we got a little bit more detail on the move. What other details did we get? I'm forgetting at the moment.
I didn't watch it, so I don't know.
Ha ha ha. We saw a video of Siege. Some people were saying that we were going to get to see that Nodes in editor Nodes interview. That's going to be a dev diary. And I was thinking that I didn't hear that. It seemed like it's going to be this month, but they didn't say when this month it was going to be. So I was not expecting to see it in the live stream, and I did not see it in the live stream. But they did show another Siege video of people running through. And one of the key things, Stephen had dropped in some concept art of the glowy relic columns that we're going to be trying to capture. And I was expecting them to show that concept art in the live stream, but instead they showed those same things actually in the game. So I was kind of pleased that we got a better version of what I was expecting to see. Did you see the live stream, Nero? You did, because you were you were commenting, which was kind of fun, minute by minute.
Yeah, I had a couple of statements about a couple of things, but the regarding the gameplay demo, I can see there's a lot of stuff for a lot of people to be excited about. My eye naturally tends towards when I see mistakes, I just focus on them, and the jumpiness of the animation, that the movement of the characters and how smooth they were. It didn't really look great. Everything, the models look good, the effects look good, but the actual, like, watching the characters move around, they look jerky. And for something that's, an action based, especially, targeting based combat system now, that's got to be super smooth. So they got to keep working on that.
It's interesting you say that, because I think there was also a Discord question about why are you not letting us, like, why is there a visual NDA or something like that?
That's on A0.
But still, his comment was, well, because looks change over time, and they don't necessarily look good right now.
Yeah,
kind of to what you're saying. It just looks janky.
Yeah, especially for A0. That's where we have the visual NDA will probably always be in place. There was a lot of glowy. Those weapons were awfully glowy. I think I did hear somebody in today's voice chat after the live stream say, "Yeah, if we're doing stealth, I don't know how we're going to do stealth with those glowy weapons."
No, use mundane stuff. You don't want to wear those outfits that we talked about.
The mana forged,
yeah, those are just going to reveal your position. Where, like, the darkest, like, ugliest stuff that doesn't have any features to it, and that's your stealth.
Have they said, like, so there's a lot of skins. So is this like a piece by piece armor set, or is this you get a skin and you just head to toe look?
I think it's head to toe.
So I don't know. I don't know. There was something about the old school, right, where you would try to, you'd go do things and you try to complete a set, right, and I got piece 2, piece 3, and you'd have to mismatch for a little while. I don't know. The idea that here's a whole look for you. I don't know.
Yeah, some people would care more about stats than fashion, and so horrible to my artistic senses. But I also did ask specifically in voice chat last night why I should care about the APOC cosmetics if I can get better versions of the gear in the MMORPG. And Steven said he doesn't think that the Mana Forged ones are necessarily better. And it depends on aesthetics. Some people won't like glowy stuff, so they will think the APOC cosmetics without the glowy stuff is better. But he said that it may be more difficult to get more challenges and obstacles around getting the MMORPG armor sets than it is to get the APOC cosmetics. So I guess we'll have to see. But I would rather them be very different so that people are clear that I got this from APOC.
Yeah, because I mean, the idea, I saw that comment, because the idea that if they are like basically the same, like why make it harder in one than the other? Because you're sort of forcing the completionists, right, that don't maybe want to do a BR to go a certain direction.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's kind of weird.
It's strange to me. Yeah. I don't want to be confused. If the whole point of getting APOC cosmetics is so people recognize that I'm playing APOC, I don't want them to have to be thinking about it.
It's like, what's the point of even making something harder in the MMO, right? Because nobody's going to do it. I'll just go spend an hour in the BR and get it instead of a week.
But it won't be glowy. It won't be glowy in APOC. That's different. But again, if you're stealth,
why are we worrying about glowy when we don't even have nodes yet, which is the main thing that we need out of this game?
That's right. Well, they want to show something, and that was easy to show. But what else? So what else was in the live stream? So we saw Siege. We got a little bit of clarification about, that is where we heard that they are going to push into 2020 for the release date, at least. And then I can't think of anything else that
Of which
really
part?
struck me.
Which part is 2020?
The game. Before he was saying, and people kept complaining. People kept saying, "Well, he keeps saying that they're on track for the game to release before 2020."
The MMO?
And I'm like, "Yeah."
Okay.
And I was like, "Yeah." At this point, with the BR being released, and we haven't even gotten Siege and Horde mode. I don't see how it can still be on track
for nodes or crafting or
right.
There was one comment that I had specifically pulled out. It was around 26 minutes into the stream that he was saying a lot of good stuff about how the game was going to be, better and good in these different ways, but it felt like he was kind of vague, and it basically boiled down to, well, we're experienced and we love this game, therefore it'll be good. And while I'm not disputing that might be, one of the major contributing factors, like I could personally use something a little more concrete than that.
Well, that's what I thought about Landmark, and that's EverQuest Next. That's what I thought about Revival. Like, so just because the devs are passionate and experienced doesn't necessarily mean the game is going to be good or fun or release.
I would say in one of those cases, it was definitely because they ran out of money, and the other one, it was a combination of running out of money and never really getting things on track.
I'm just saying, stuff can happen in any case. Stuff can happen.
Yeah, that's true.
But nodes is I keep focusing on it because that's what sets it apart. So why are they?
That's what sets it apart. Although I was told BDO had nodes.
Well, I wouldn't know. I would have to look at that.
I mean, it depends on.
I don't think they had. Yeah, I think it's like saying EQ had classes. Yeah. Okay. So I'm trying to think. No specific dates. Group leaders for Siege mode. I think one of the things that's interesting there is this is in the Q&A section. Is the formation leaders? I guess guild leaders, raid leaders will be able to give us custom formations to follow. I don't even know quite what that means, but that kind of sounds fascinating to me.
I don't get that. Like what?
That you would set out waypoints, or somehow you would communicate to the people in your raid to follow a specific formation.
Isn't that what we already do?
Kinda.
That's what we already do.
I mean, this sounds a little bit more like somebody playing like a Warcraft or Starcraft sort of perspective, that you're clicking around from a pulled back view, telling people where to go and what to do and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you can click on the mini map and the little circle goes, okay, ding, 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 go there, go there, go there. But that's what you already do in raiding, right? We want you to be here and you to be there.
It says a custom formation, which seems different to me.
Formation is just positioning of people. That's what you already do.
It could be something special. It could be that if a raid commander tells you to go phalanx and you've got 5 people with shields who line up with spear people behind them, that you get some special group bonus that you wouldn't otherwise get if you just randomly lined people up like that. So it could be some like leadership level quality or something that you would have to be a I guess an experienced raid leader and have developed skills in that or something. I don't know.
That's weird.
I like the idea of leveling up as being able to get different formations. That's kind of cool.
Still weird.
Yeah, this says the MMORPG, you will have custom raid formations to utilize.
I mean, the only thing I can think of that would set that apart from any other MMORPG, either what Neuro said or if somehow they force your character to be in a certain spot. Otherwise, that's what every guild leader already does. I need the tank over there. I need the healers back here. I need the ranged over here.
Yeah, but it doesn't necessarily put down a graphic or anything, right? That's what I'm envisioning.
Yeah, that's why you have the little, you click on the mini map and you show people where you want to go.
Everybody being controlled by follow scripts, and all they're doing is looking in a direction and being a turret. And you've just basically got this mass of people that's kind of like a big battle tank at that point.
That's what came to my mind when you said that. It's like, okay, so you're making people be arranged in a certain way, because otherwise it's just like any other combat game.
It seems to me like it's a prefab graphic that you throw down, not something that you're just drawing.
Or, later stage Warcraft, you had the little flare, or the little, not flares, the little smoke thing. So you could say, like, well, I mean, there's already examples of that. So green is the hunter. And you throw them down and it starts smoking. So it shows the hunters where to go. And, red is the healers, and you put it down and it shows the healers where to go. So it's, if that's all that is, that's just a different graphical presentation, which doesn't get me very excited. So.
Just saying something I hadn't heard before, so it's interesting to me.
He likes his words.
Well, that too. We're out of time. Is there anything else that you guys want to talk about with the voice chat or the live stream or the letter?
No, I can't really say. We've covered a lot with the game the past couple episodes, so
yeah.
It's
I think at this point we're still in the waiting game to see when APOC is going to be back up for us to test, and we'll just have to see what happens with Nodes content during Nodes month for March.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we will be back next week to continue our discussion on levels in MMORPGs. So, and I will try to explain things better.
That'll be a Chronicles of Illyria show.
Yep. Yeah.
Okie doke.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. Everyone have a wonderful weekend. We will see you back here in a week.
See you later.